Welcome back to Radical Racing. We're here with the Dunlop Radical UK Cup, the first of two races at Oulton Park, and we have got some absolutely thrilling action going on throughout the field. The race currently being led by Victor Correa, but this is a battle amongst two of the cars in Victor's class. The Masters class is Mark Hales just ahead of Terence Woodward. The pair of them have been wheel to wheel for the last few laps, as we've got now the fight for second and third coming together very, very nicely. Zach Chapman currently in second position, Manhal Alos in third, both of them multiple race winners already during the 2012 season, and Alos has just been driving like a man possessed over the first half of this race. He has been charging down the advantage that Zach Chapman was holding, and he's now onto his tail. Likewise, Terence Woodward is looming ever larger in the mirrors of Mark Hales. So will we see that position changing fairly shortly or not? If the vast experience Mark Hales has anything to do with it. Of course, this is a 40-minute race. It's got a mandatory pit stop where many of the cars will see a change of driver, and those pit stops are not too far away, so these drivers trying to do as much as they can before they come into the pits, and both Hales and Woodward will be passing over the keys of their Radical SR8s. In the case of Mark Hales, it's to Roger Green. In the case of Terence Woodward, it will be Ross Kaiser who takes over. So the pair of them trying to do everything that they can before their participation in this race is done. We just caught a glimpse. The next car along, that's Gary Kane. He leads the Supersport class, the SR3s. We head back then to the fight for second and third position. It's enabling Victor Correa to try and build up a little bit of a buffer in the lead of the race, as Zach Chapman and Manhal Alos go wheel to wheel as they have done for much of the season. So there's Correa, and he's only a couple of seconds here clear of Zach Chapman and Manhal Alos, and Chapman and Alos could find themselves closing in. Correa, if Alos gives Zach Chapman the hurry up just a little bit, and still Terence Woodward behind Mark Hales. Can he make the move into Lodge Corner? No, he can't quite, but he really thinks about it. But he just couldn't get quite close enough. He really needs to be another half a car length nearer, maybe, the tail of Mark Hales to Terence Woodward, but he can't do that either into Oulton. So into another lap, and Woodward's pursuit of Hales continues, as Alos is visibly a little bit closer still to Zach Chapman, and snatching a break is Zach Chapman. He can see Alos challenging in his mirrors, and what prompted that was that Alos looked to the inside. He snatched a break. Zach Chapman must have seen that move and really locking up those tyres. Hasn't delayed him too much though through Shellall's corner. It's one of the few corners where it's not going to hurt you. But now as they come out of Britain's over Hilltop and into the braking area of Hizzies, now this is a distinct overtaking opportunity, and Zach Chapman knows it. That's why he covers the inside line. He then moves back across the racing line, and Alos leaps across the curbs and goes through. Again, an audacious move from Manhal Alos. I think Zach Chapman must have felt he'd done enough, but not in Manhal Alos's book. He surged through into that second place, and now what can he do about Victor Correa? Here is the Supersport class leader, Gary Kane. Gary Kane hands over to Tom Ashton in the mandatory pit stop period. At the moment, he is looking fairly comfortable in the lead of the Supersport class, doing a very fine job. Well, Alos into second place. Zach Chapman, though, trying to fight his way back through, and Alos, having made his way ahead of Zach Chapman, he's not exactly disappearing into the distance here. Over to Elite, on to complete another lap, and Chapman again thinks about looking to the inside into Wilds Hall corner. He wasn't quite close enough, but he's taking the opportunity to show himself in Manhal Alos's mirrors at every opportunity, and that, he can only hope, will force Alos into some sort of error. Ready up onto the tail of Max Hilliard to put the lap onto him comes Gary Kane in the lead of the Supersport class, and there is the all-important pit window open board that you just caught a glimpse of as they came through to complete laps, so that pit phase is now open. So the drivers are going to have to pit in over the next couple of laps. Victor Correa will hand over to Tor Christian Ebsvik. Correa, who was an absolute revelation at Brands Hatch in June, and he's continuing that form into Oulton Park in July. There's an early pit stop from Terence Woodward. That is to pass over to Ross Kaiser. So Woodward out of the cockpit. Ross Kaiser clambers in. Also coming into the pit lane as well is Gary Kane. Hand over to Tom Ashton. So Ashton being strapped in, and of course the drivers in the Dunlop Radical UK Cup, they all are graded A, B and C, and then that driver grading dictates the pit stop length. So C graded drivers have a far shorter pit stop than B graded drivers, and in turn they have a shorter duration in the pits than the A graded drivers. So that is why the race so often transforms in the latter stages, as Zach Chapman awaits in the cockpit. Roger Green gets strapped in after the sterling work we saw from Mark Hales. The mechanics just checking the tyre pressures as Chapman gets counted down, and back into the race he goes. Victor Crea, the race leader, is in, and it's Tor Krishnedsvik making his debut in the Donald Radical UK Cup this weekend. Takes over the second half of the race as Lucia has, with his duties completed, found Victor Crea.
So Victor, you managed to hold on to the top spot there. How did it go for you?
It was nice, that was perfect. I started on pole, stayed on pole in first place. I was managed to pull some time away, so I gave the car to my teammate, Abesvik. I hope he can do well.
And how did the changeover go?
I think we lost some time in the pit lane, but we can get back, hopefully.
Well, Tor Krishnedsvik and Victor Crea have both had broadly similar career trajectories. They were race winners in the British Formula 4 Championship. They then went and competed in the European F3 Open, but Ebsvik, as a result of he and Crea's driver gradings, has come out a little bit lower down the field after that longer pit stop. Into the race then has come Manhalalos, which makes that move that he completes on Zach Chapman before the pit stops all the more critical. So it's Alos who leads the way, but Zach Chapman is right in his wheel tracks in second position, and this is the battle that we were really hoping for this weekend. Chapman and Alos are so evenly matched as a driver combination, and Alos is now taking his turn to feel the pressure from Zach Chapman. Through Britons they both go. Now, is Chapman going to be near enough to challenge into Hizzies on this occasion? Well, he's not quite there, is he? He's 2 or 3 car lengths back, but that is certainly near enough if Alos were to make a slight error here, because Chapman will be 3 in a heartbeat as they're well into the second half of the race, and still the battle's continuing throughout the field. Ross Kaiser doing his very best to elevate himself up through the order. He's on the tail of Darren Anley, and another very welcome addition to the grid this weekend, graduating from the Performance Direct Radical Clubman's Cup, where he's been so successful over recent seasons. And Kaiser, very rapid driver, scything through the pack. There's Colin Noble, and Noble currently running in 3rd position in the Supersport class. It's currently Bradley Ellis who's 2nd in the class. There is Bradley, with Tom Ashton still leading the way, having taken over from Gary Kane. So the battle for the race lead gets ever closer between Alos and Zach Chapman, and Zach Chapman is really turning up the heat here on Manhalos as they both slide through Oulton corner. They are driving on the limit, if not a little bit beyond it. Also Bradley Ellis pushing very, very hard in his Supersport car as he attempts to close in on Tom Ashton through Island Bend. Come the leading duo, and Alos having to go a little bit defensively then into Shell Oil's corner. Very, very tight line to the inside just to make sure that Zach Chapman cannot catch him unawares, and at the moment that seems to be working for Manhalalos, but he can't drive like that all the way through to the checkered flag, because if he starts driving defensively, then that is when Chapman will bring that gap back down and can really start the challenge, which is exactly what happens as they come into the braking area for Hizzies, and Chapman showing himself in Alos's mirrors, letting him know loud and clear that he's there and looking to try and find a way through out of Hizzies and climbing over Clay Hill once more. The battle between this leading duo proved to be very, very entertaining as Alex Capalia gets his head down. He's just up on the tail of Neil Houston, and that is going to be a change for 15th position if he can get through, as into Lodge corner Alos and Chapman moving now really towards the closing stage of this race, and Zach Chapman could have judged this to perfection as they cross the line into another lap. Again, looking to the inside line at Oulton is Zach Chapman, and Chapman, the former Toyota MR2 racer, on the tail of Manhalalos. And yes, Alex Collier did move ahead of Neil Houston, so that move was completed. And we also saw glimpse the 7th place car of Sean Bounce. So Neil Houston running strongly in 16th position, taken over from Max Hilliard. Well, here comes Alos with Chapman behind him, and we're into the last lap of the race, and Manhalos may have just been able to build out a slight advantage over Zach Chapman as they went through Cascades. Let's see if he's been able to do that. So out of Shell All's Call they come, and yes, that gap has gone out now to a couple of car lengths. So maybe Alos has got enough in hand, but he slides the car through Britons. He's still pushing very, very hard, as he's only a couple of corners from home, and yet another victory in the 2012 Donald Radical UK Cup into the chicane Hizzies. Once he comes out of Hizzies, he's just got Druids and Lodge Corn to go, and it would appear as if Zach Chapman is not going to be close enough here to mount Halalos to be able to mount a serious challenge to take the lead away from Alos. As into his final lap goes Tor Christian Ebsvik. He runs in 6th position and still pushes very hard out of Druids for the final time into Lodge Corner, and this is looking very, very good for Matt. He just needs to get the braking right, and then the line through the corner right, but he gets the braking wrong, he slides the car. I cannot believe that, he runs wide, and on the last corner of the race, Zach Chapman comes through to take the victory after the error from Matt Halos. Dramatic conclusion to the race. So it's the win for Zach Chapman, second place to a distraught Matt Halalos, with the podium being completed by Tony Wells. And Manhalos, oh dear, that is such a shame, an uncharacteristic error from Manhalos, but delight all the while for Zach Chapman. So it's Zach Chapman who takes the win, Alos in second, Tony Wells in third, with then James Abbott in fourth position, Mark Smithson, Stuart Mosley completing the top 5. Contrast of emotions on the podium, broad smiles from Zach Chapman and ruin what might have been from Manhalos.
We had a good start and we were chasing down Victor at the beginning and trying to kind of look after the car. And then halfway through the first stint, Manhold made a bit of a kind of rough move and we managed to kind of get away with it, luckily. And then it was a really tight pit stop and we had a bit of a squeeze in the stops. Came out and put him under pressure for the whole of the second stint as well. And in the end he cracked and we got the position right at the last corner, which is brilliant, and it was great for spectators.
I'm happy but gutted at the same time. Yeah, I had the race completely in my grasp and I just made a completely unwarranted error.
What happened then?
I just broke too late. I was trying to go for my fastest lap in the last lap. It's silly, and I just broke too late into Lodge. Nearly lost the car. Actually, nearly went into the gravel. Zach was I don't know, was like 2 seconds behind me. There's no pressure at all. I just lost it on my own accord, really.
It was quite a good race. I was a bit slow to get off the mark, and I went wide at Lodge, which is when Manhal got past me. And then I sort of got my head down. It wasn't too bad, but there's a few areas on the track I really haven't got right, so I need to try and improve on that. And then at the pit stops, I think I got back to about 4.5 seconds from them, but they were just too far away.
Well, that was a very eventful race 1. Join us again after this break for race 2.